Ma'at Hotep. Welcome to Raising the Feminine Principle. I'm your host, Satra Nitert Kefa Abe Manuk Ma'at, and here is my guest, Hadassah Azrael. I'm here in Paterson, New Jersey at her house and assisting her for a while. And so the next few of our videos will be here until the Spirit leads me elsewhere. Hadassah.
Shalom. I'm honored to be here.
We are going to be speaking today about abuse in relationships and how that affects the female and how we end up having the end result of who we are and how we respond to our sisters and brothers that are out here, how we respond to our parents, how we respond to our children. One of the reasons why we are able to speak on this in depth is because I was once in an abusive relationship, and I was in actually different types of abusive relationships for several years. And I'm able to speak on this because of the experience that I had with that and what I was able to do to overcome that. And Sister Hadassah has also been in a type of abusive relationship as well, and how she had to deal with that and overcome that. And this is something that we as women need to understand how these things work. First off, to talk about, because we've had this conversation before, when we as women, when we go through these things, we experience these type of abuse because there comes a time where we have a self-hatred of ourselves. And we all understand that a lot of the self-hatred came from our oppressors. And then in turn, we end up having those oppressors that oppressed our ancestors. They end up we end up accepting that oppressing, and then we start oppressing ourselves. And we start having where they did certain things to the men, and it went through generations to generations, and how the men started treating the woman in disrespect because they didn't know how to respect themselves anymore as the black man. And so, like I have spoken about on one of my YouTube videos called Mirror, because we're not trained to understand that whatever it is that a man is saying to you and he's lashing out at you, he's really doing it to himself. He doesn't see that. But because of how we are and we're in this physical world, we accept that abuse as him hitting us, and it's something that we did and it's our fault. And then we accept the yelling and the emotional distress that we put upon our body. Our body starts to go through different stages because stress changes who you are. It changes a lot of things about you, physically, emotionally, mentally. And it actually is a killer of the body and the spirit. As women, also back in our oppressing days, which we would, to touch so just quickly upon the Willie Lynch letter, is understanding that what they did to our ancestors after they mutilated the biggest, strongest, blackest male that we had in the slaves, and they ripped him apart, tarred him up and everything, feathered him, ripped him apart, castrated him, cut off his head and everything in front of the woman. And the woman in turn and now accepting this already abuse that she's seeing right there, and now teaching her youth to do the same, to be weak-minded. And then what happened is that we got the women who were being raped and abused by what we call the master back then, or massa. And so we started this continued allowing abuse in our generations to come over and over and over again. And because the man became programmed and the woman became programmed, we allowed this to fall into each of our generations because we're angry, we're hurt, and we're pissed off. And a lot of us don't even know what we're hurt and pissed off of anymore because we're carrying the weight of our ancestors before each generation until we get to like where we are now. So my abusers had their history and past and what they were dealing with now, and I have my history and past and what I'm dealing with now. But what happens is we are not allowing men to treat us a certain way when we deserve the respect that we have. And yes, we should learn to respect our own selves, but we don't know how to. We're always taught how to respect, to say, you need to respect yourself, sister. Well, do you ever when people say that, do they tell you how to respect yourself? You know?
And respecting ourselves is more than just modest garment. Watching the language that comes out of our mouth. Respecting ourselves has everything to do with, my mother used to always tell me, we teach people how to treat us. Mm-hmm. So if one is looking at my life and sees that I do not respect myself, I do not love myself, mm-hmm. then that person that comes into my life has no incentive to come into my life and love me or respect me. Mm-hmm. I used to say victim or volunteer. You know, when you're a victim the first time, and the sad thing about it, Sister Kefa, this has become the norm mm-hmm. in our relationships. If there's not drama, if he doesn't hit you, if he's not verbally abusing you, he's not showing you that he loves you.
Right.
We have misconstrued jealousy, excused bad behavior, with he loves me. Mm-hmm. And let's even take it further back to the conditioning as little girls.
Right.
When we were little girls and little Johnny in the playground hit us, it was told to us that was a love tap.
Right. That he throws a rock at you, that he's saying that he likes you.
That he liked me. And he was showing me the fact that he liked me by assaulting me, right. by hitting me, mm-hmm. pulling my hair, doing things to make me feel bad about myself. This is conditioning our young girls from children to accept hitting as the norm and a form of affection. And that is so incorrect.
And the sad thing about that, to add on to it, is that if the young boys at a young age are doing this and the girls are taught that this is okay and this is the way that he is showing that he cares, then what are the young boys being taught for them to be able to do this and think it's okay to act out that way? You know, and we have to remember how children act is just a reflection of what they see at home. So a lot of us don't want to accept the fact of what we do at home, because a lot of times we do things automated. You know, we don't even know that we're doing it. You know, I'll say, for instance, and I don't mind speaking about this, I have on my arms and everything allergic reaction to bed bug bites 3 years ago, and I still have the scars from it. And what I do when I'm sitting talking to people, I automatically start scratching because I'm so accustomed to it. It's habitual. I don't even know until somebody says, Kefa, stop scratching. It's that same thing. When we're parents, you know, we're all going through our hardships, and it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter what type of job you have. It doesn't matter what type of car you have. It doesn't matter if you're wearing Gucci. It doesn't matter if you're wearing Louis Vuitton. It doesn't matter if you're wearing Polo, all these different type of things. And I'm not advertising for them, just to let you know, because I don't believe in making still the oppressor richer. And while we still, living poor.
And you're saying that to show that abuse does not discriminate. You can just be a well-dressed, well-educated, financially sound victim of abuse.
Right. And it's like, and we even know that even people who are rich, they have issues. It's not just people who are what they call poor or broke. Everybody has them. And so it doesn't matter what your setting is and what you feel like, oh, you're on top of things or better than things. People are being abused all around the world. Women are being abused. Children are being abused all around the world. And you have to start thinking and listening to the things that you say. When you are talking to your daughters and your daughter is telling you something and you tell her, shut up. And you don't even know why you're angry about something, but you're not even going back to apologize to your own seed and telling them, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Mommy is having a bad day. I'm not feeling too well, or I'm on my cycle. And so I'm expressing certain things, and I do apologize for that. Please, continue on, but maybe just go into your room for a while so Mama can have some rest. Fathers, how we yell at the mom and the daughter, the sons are sitting there watching all these different things, and they're taking this in. So then what happens is your seed goes away from you when they go into this public school educational system, and they're becoming in with a certain type of mindset that's based off of home. And then they come into a school mindset with all these other kids that have their mindsets based off of their home. Then they come into this boxed up room trying to learn an educational system that wasn't created for them. And then they get into these moments of confusion because some understand and comprehend it and some don't. And usually the ones that don't comprehend are even more angry and confused. And so they start lashing out at each other. Or we're constantly abusing each other over and over again. And as a woman, when we start taking this in from childhood into our adulthood, because when I was a child, it wasn't that I wasn't physically abused when I was a child. I was emotionally and mentally abused for the things that was said to me through the people in my family. Then when I started getting older and started getting into boys at the age of 12 and 13 and started noticing that, oh, wait a minute, I'm starting to feel a little something. I feel some vibrations hitting on when I see a young man now. And I'm like, woo, wait a minute, that means I must love him. I must like him, because we're already programmed to tell us what love is. And not understanding that love is divine law. It's not an emotion. And then we become teenagers. And that's when we really start, acting out and feeling ourselves and so on. And so next thing you know, we come across a guy, we playing around, hitting at each other and all this other stuff. He hits back at you. And then you think, oh, he must love me. And then next thing you know, here and there, he starts saying negative things about you. He starts putting you down. He starts telling you that you need to dress better. If you keep yourself up, you'll look better.
It's very subtle. Mm-hmm. Everyone is on their best behavior when we first meet. Mm-hmm. And we have to stop excusing poor behavior, and we have to stop making excuses. And I want to go back. We don't want to discount the fact that our brothers are being abused too.
Right, they are.
Sisters, we have to learn to keep our hands to ourselves as well.
And sometimes, to be honest, to learn to be silent. And it's not in the sense of how people take it and how the Bible wrote it. It's the fact that sometimes and I hate to say it like this, but sometimes you got to back off. When the black man goes out there, he's out there trying to work. He's out there working with another master, telling him what to do. Sometimes you got the straw boss that's sitting there thinking he got power, and he's bossing him around, belittling him in front of his peers or his co-workers. Then he has to deal with the stupidity of the cop system out there, our justice system. He goes into a store, people think he's shoplifting. People clutch their purse still when, the black man walks past, and he's consuming this all day long. And then he comes back into his home where it should be his place where he can relax himself and get away from all that BS. And then because you're angry, instead of just, when I say it like this, I'm not saying it in a sense to condone the actions that happen physically. I'm saying to help you understand what not to do so that fireworks won't come where we need to put our hands on each other. So when the man comes in or the woman comes into the home, we want to find peace in our home. And that's when you're supposed to say all outside things are outside that house. Peace is in my home and peace is in me. So nothing of the outside world comes in here, but we don't do that because that's not how we're programmed. That's not how we've been taught through our parents and their parents and their parents and so on. So we argue and we fight because we had a bad day. Instead of just saying I had a bad day, and then the woman or the man can take in and go, okay, you know what, honey, let me do this for you, or sweetheart, let me do this for you, and so on. We lash out and start yelling because there might be one thing that's array in the house. Maybe the dishes weren't washed, or maybe the clothes wasn't washed, or something's laying on the floor. Something that he likes or something that she likes has been broken or somehow, and they take that one little thing, allows them to snap. Now you're yelling at each other, and now you're fighting with each other.
we took the time to learn our mates, then we should be able to tell without words, just through a mere facial expression, my man has had a bad day. Mm-hmm. He's fighting the world. He shouldn't have to come home in what is called the sanctuary of his home and have to fight those within his home, those that he feeds and that he takes care of. Sometimes the best thing to say is nothing at all.
Right.
We have to learn that there's some things that just don't require an answer, and not to personalize everything that happens.
Right.
You know, if he comes in and he has that look on his face, give him some space. Mm-hmm. Give him a kiss. Walk off. Don't come back at him with, what's wrong with you? You know, no, that's like adding water to a grease fire.
Right.
It's gonna become something so much more than it has to be. Just learn to step back, and when you know it, after a while, he'll come out of that.
Right. I remember I was in this relationship a few years ago, and he and I had a natural respect for each other in our space. And he loved basketball, so he was watching his basketball games and so on. And it was something that he said that taught me something really fast, because I used to be one of those women like, but just give me some time. I just want to say something to you. I want to grab his time. And then instead, just a basketball game or a football game or a soccer game, and even if he's playing video games, it's going to last for about an hour or two. And you can't take an hour or two of that time, let him have his space, because he's not hanging out with his friends, even if he had his friends there. But if he's not with his friends, let him have his space to hang out with his friends, or not his friends, watch the game, enjoy his time, take your you time at that moment, so you can have your piece away. And then when everything's said and done, then you can come down and talk. But a lot of us don't do that. We interrupt. And we want that moment now because we feel like something else outside of us is getting more attention. And we want to have all the attention, and we have to stop being selfish. And then men are the same way, because I've been involved in situations where right before I got married, the man that I married, and I'm not going to go into what his name is, but the man that I married, he was also very clingy, you know, so he wanted to go where I went and wanted to be where I was and things. And so that's also a thing that becomes an irritant. You have to learn to have a space for each other and what each other is doing.
And to learn and know your mate. If you know your mate is a football, basketball fanatic. Don't try to have a serious conversation with him during Super Bowl. You know, let's learn to respect each other. You know, let's give each other space, and let's define abuse. Abuse is the willful intent of one party to control another party through intimidation, through humiliation, through physical, you know, if it comes down to it, physical violence is usually the last resort. When you're absolutely showing that you can't be controlled, then that's when abuse will become physical, because the humiliation, the intimidation tactics, the degradation, the attempting to break the spirit. Mm-hmm. But one thing we need to know is when two people are working together for the common good, there's no need to control one or the other, right? Because you're both on the same path and you're both working for the same common good.
Right.
You know, so we have to learn to be real with ourselves. We have to take time to learn our mates. More importantly, we need to take time to learn ourselves.
She took the words right out of my mouth. While she was speaking, I was saying it in my own self. And a lot of us don't do that. But then the problem is that we don't know how to. So we're already self-abusing.
Yes.
You know, we're self-abusing. And that's something that she was speaking on earlier, is that how we feel about ourselves, we attract that to us.
Like a perfume.
So if you feel down about yourself, you feel unattractive, you're angry, you're confused, and chaos is within you because of things that are happening around you, you know, then the female friends that you come across, that's the ones you're going to start coming across that they seem like they're funny, good at first, but then they'll backstab you later. Then you have the men that'll come into your life and they smile in your face and everything's good. The next thing you know, they're stepping out on you and meeting other females, sleeping around with somebody else, not telling you, doing it unprotected at that, that's another form of abuse. When somebody steps out of a relationship, when that wasn't something that y'all had agreed upon, and he comes back and brings something to you, that's abusive to the body. You know, and like you said, there's many different types of abuse, and it always happens out subtly first. And what we do as women, we go, oh, shut up. And we smile it off. And instead of us catching on to the fact that he just said something negative to you that hurt you, because we're not taught to understand that whatever anybody says to you is not being said to you, it's saying to them first. You are accepting, like you said, personalize it. You're accepting that they are saying this to you because somewhere within you, you feel that person is correct. So you start feeling negative about yourself. So you kind of just, on this part, then you shut up. Then all of a sudden you be quiet. Then it happens again. Next thing you know, he starts saying something worse about you. Then it becomes to the fact that you might cook dinner one day, and then he'll come home and make a negative comment about your food that you just slaved. Well, I had to wear a slave. That you took a lot of time to prepare the dinner for the family, or just for you and him. Then it gets to the way you walk, the way you look, the way you dress. You're not taking care of yourself no more. And they're not saying it out of love for you. They're saying it because they're pissed off about something, because it's something that was happening that he never shared with you in the beginning, because we don't learn to communicate with each other, which is the number one issue that most people have that leads into abusive relationships, is not communicating with one another on what they're feeling, what their thoughts are. And when we do start to communicate, we argue and yell, and then we point fingers. And that's one thing that, at least at some point in my marriage, when I was married for 7 years, that when you learn how to communicate with each other, like if we were having a disagreement, I speak to you about the things that you're saying, that how it's making me feel. And then so that way I'm not pointing fingers. I'm saying, this is how I feel when you say this to me. And you'll say, this is how I feel when you say this to me. And when you do it that way, it changes the outcome and the vibrations of the event, the current event at that moment. But if I say, well, you said such and such, and that always blah blah blah, and this is what you do, and if you didn't say this, I wouldn't have done this, and so on. That's how it goes.
And then it makes the person on the receiving end become defensive, and then nothing is going to be accomplished, because they're going to be spending the majority of the time, you know, what we used to say as children: I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off of me and goes back to you. So I came from a home where I wasn't allowed to speak up for myself. And this paved the way for me to carry that same behavior into my relationships, where I was being violated, where things were happening to me that was not proper. I never spoke up. I remember an ex-boyfriend of mine would apologize for something that he did to me, and I would say, oh, it's okay. No, it's not okay. For me to say okay was a direct violation of my personal integrity. What I should have said was, I'm angry, it hurt, but we'll deal with it and we'll work it out. As opposed to, it's okay. Because if I'm telling you it's okay, then how do you, he has no incentive to correct his behavior. Right. How can I forgive you for stepping on my toes if you still keep stepping on my toes?
Right.
We don't set boundaries, because when you set boundaries, you are making it clear as to what the do's and the don'ts of the relationship. And when those boundaries are made clear and they are crossed, it is deliberate and it is a willful act. Then a consequence has to come along.
Right.
And more than just hollering and screaming and yelling. We teach people how to treat us, but first and foremost, we need to learn how to treat ourselves. Because when we learn how to treat ourselves and we truly love ourselves, there are just some things that we will not accept in our lives from anybody, be it our children, other adults, women, friends, or male friends. So again, I understand, you know, as we were discussing, you know, the Willie Lynch, we have to always go back there. The male's image was destroyed right in the eyesight of the woman. And it was that at that point that she had made it up in her mind, he can't do nothing for me. Mm-hmm. He can't even save himself.
Right.
And this is the same mentality of the women we see today. Mm-hmm. We are out of order. And I can only speak about us women. I can't speak about the brothers.
Right.
I know that I was out of order. I had gave into the mindset that I'm an independent black woman, you know, and I don't have to listen to a man and I don't need no man. Well, that was a lie. I need my brother. I need my male counterpart. Mm-hmm. Without him, I am out of balance.
Right.
And with him, I can still be out of balance. If he is not in balance and practicing some spiritual principles, and neither am I.
Right. And a lot of people don't understand what balance is in relationships. And I'm not going to go too deep in that because that's actually going to be another show about balance in relationships. But it's understanding that, again, if you don't know who you are as a woman, to know that when you get up in the morning, you look in that mirror and you say to yourself before you walk out that door, I am a beautiful black woman. I'm intelligent. I'm not going to take no mess off of anybody. A man who is going to come and step to me is going to step correct. Right. It should not be about his material wealth, of what we are told in society of what material wealth we should adhere to and put a part of our personal list that we have that's supposed to shape and make a man. No. What it is that when you are walking along, you first of all, you must see and know God in yourself. The one most high within yourself. Because the one most high is within you because it created you. It designed every part of who you are. Even in the sense that when you decided on the mate that you had, even based off of your emotions and sensations and not anything off of anything spiritual based, that, okay, well, since you decided that you want to be here and then you decided that you wanted to mate with this person, then this is the design of how the relationship is going to end up being because we don't take the time to get to know us and get ourselves together. And so we don't tell ourselves that I'm not going to take it. No, I'm not going to take a man to disrespect me. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to let a man to disrespect my sisters. I'm not going to let a man disrespect my mother. I'm not going to let a man disrespect my child because you have to understand, it's not just about how a man treats his woman. If the man at some point is calling another sister a hoe, a bitch, a slut, or all types of stuff,
let nobody take that from you. You gotta be strong out there. You gotta be a lion. That shit is definitely the jungle.
Do you really have to keep doing this? I mean, it's getting too dangerous. Is it even safe to keep storing everything in the house?
Kid, how many times do I gotta keep telling you? I gotta do this. What other choice do I have? Look outside the window. Just look. You know what's out there. And I'm trying to raise the standards. I'm trying to make a better life for you and my seed.
Listen, Drew. If you don't do it, somebody else is bound to get that dude. You know what I mean? You seen what happened to Red and King? They got straight clapped.
Why do these people glorify this piece of trash? It's messing the people's mind up with that garbage.
We've been watching him for some time and it just doesn't fit. Everything is transparent with this guy. He looks the part, but his actions are different.
Harry, actions can be deceiving. I know he's doing more than what he's showing on the surface.
Can't be dependent on no check, though. You know what I say? Paycheck only keep you in check. It's about us building our own financial wealth. Nah, I know that. We got the city on lock. But we need to take this thing through the states and spread it. Then make it global. It's our cycle. We could get it. Go cycle in. I know you're looking at me. My skin color, the way I dress. What, because I wear a fitted cap, you feeling like he like all the rest, right? You're wrong. And I'm looking at you in your eyes. deep down, you know I'm different.
Look, man. I know what you're selling in those brown paper bags. And let me tell you something. It's not helping your people.
Watch how he treats the women in his family. If you are in a relationship with a brother who has an estranged relationship with his mother, you got to take a serious look at that, because he's going to bring his hatred, his issues that he has for his mother, and he is going to perpetrate them on you.
Right. And
because we have the tendency in the dynamics of relationships draw ourselves to those that we had as an example. My example in a relationship, my father shot my mother. He was a drug user. He was a drug seller. He stayed in and out of prison. And in all honesty, as I sit here before you today, those are the type of men that I gravitated myself to. And then spent the majority of my time trying to fix these broken men, when in actuality I was not fixing them, but I was breaking me in the process of trying to fix them. And then when I saw that I was unsuccessful at fixing those brothers, then I would further break my brother some more. Because see, now you're no good, you're this, that. Women, you can't complain about your man not working when he came into the relationship without a job. You can't change the game in the 9th inning. What is acceptable in the beginning has to, in other words, what you did to get me, you have to continue to do to keep me. And we have to be honest about what we want. And not be afraid to say it at the risk of him walking away. Because if he walks away, then it's just a proven fact that he wasn't there to stay. He was there to play.
My spiritual twin, we met in Baltimore. He once told me that, I remember thinking we were on the phone or something like that. And he ended up saying to me one day that I need to stand up for myself more. He and I used to argue and fight all the time, but we didn't understand the dynamics at the time, or wanted to truly dive into to accept the dynamics at the time, that why we were fighting back and forth. But because I was still seeing my ex at the time, and the things that was happening between me and my ex, and what he was seeing, what was going on between me and him, and what I was allowing for my children to see, I was taking in a certain level of abuse to self. Not so much because it was really the brother who was dishing it out, but what he was doing, I found a way to accept it. And so he was like, he was telling me that I need to set boundaries for myself. I need to hold myself in a better light than what I had allowed myself to think. And so when he would always let me know, Kefa, you need to look at yourself, because we and him are always good at sharpening each other. Sharing this is what you're doing, you need to stop. Or this is what you're not doing, you need to change. Because, when you're able to have somebody who is your mate, and like you said, when you truly know the person and understand them, because he is you, you are him, but y'all have your differences, what brings that attraction, is understanding that, yes, you have to have boundaries. You have to set what you want to do and what you're going to accept. But because so many of us women are already emotionally scarred, we're emotionally scarred because of what we've seen around us, our parents and how they act, or some people raised by aunts and uncles, grandparents, and so on. We see different things. And then as a child, when we have our parents and mothers and fathers who are watching this show right now, understand you have to make sure what your children are watching. Because when we were watching children, even TV shows, we were younger. You're not going to always come across the Huxtables. You're going to come across the other situations where you're going to see a man belittling that woman and hitting that woman and saying nasty things to that woman. So she looks at that and thinks that that's okay too. Then she hears her neighbors across the street arguing and fighting and yelling, and so she's saying, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. So then she lets a man yell at her, bring her down, say things to hurt her feelings. And then so when she finally removes herself out of that situation, the next person she comes across is going to be the same. He's going to start off a different way than the first person. You're going to think, oh, he's different. He's different from the last guy. So, I mean, I love this man too. And we don't understand what love is. And so we take on everything that he's doing and acting and saying towards us as that. And then we wonder how we got back into the situation where this man is talking me down, saying negative things about me. Not, if I'm hurting, he'll look at you like, I'm not going to massage you. I'm not going to touch you. I'm not going to help you out. I see that you're suffering. I'm not going to do anything with that. I'm just going to make your situation worse. And then we keep continuing that. And, because I was very fortunate growing up, I was surrounded by a lot of males in my life. I had a lot of male friends. And with having that male friends, they look after you because they look at you. That's my sister right there. So I'm going to make sure that my sister is not going to be harmed. Now, if I decide to go against what they said, then I'm on my own. But they would let me know what to look out for.
And then we don't take a reprieve in between relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We jump from man to man to man to man to man, and then wonder why the face and the name has changed, but it's the same relationship.
Right.
Because when we don't learn a lesson, it's just like in school, you get left back, and you have to repeat that same lesson all over again until you get it. We change partners like we do clothing. We are afraid to be by ourselves, not knowing that the ability to be by yourself is the beginning stages of you going to be able to be with somebody else. Because if I can't be with me and enjoy my company and enjoy being alone with me, who else will?
Right.
And then people can read, desperation permeates like a perfume. A low self-esteem gives off just like a perfume. And then before you know it, here come these individuals into our life to further inflict pain, low self-esteem, to push our buttons and to then begin to subject us to the very things that we ran from the last relationship from.
And you have to know that this is how it works. When the system catches on to one thing, it has to enhance itself. So when it enhances itself, it knows, well, I can't get to her on that level. So let me bring out something a little different. So I'm going to bring her that cute honey down the street who smell good, who dress nice. He got that new white Lexus that he holding on to. He got some money, flashing that money in his hand. Oh, he look like he can do something for me, And then we look at that way. But see, you have to understand that it's always ways that how energies work, because again, you have to remember misery loves company. And that's also how spirituality works. Because when you're connecting and you have that negative energy within your being, you are bringing those people who have that same negative energy to you. And at first it may seem like it's different, but it's not. And what it is that pain and suffering and self-hatred that you have for yourself, when you attract that man to you, he has that same insecurity, self-hatred for himself. And these are some of the things that you're linking to that you don't realize that this is what's happening. And so, like I said, like getting back into the whole abuse part thing, we are in a constant abuse of ourselves because we don't know how to love ourselves. We don't know how to get to know who we are because we're not taught to know how to get to know who we are. People like to say that our culture or our ancestors and what happened back in the day, I've had conversations like that where they were like, oh, well, that shouldn't matter. No, it does matter, because I need to know beyond my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, on how they acted and the history that they had. I need to know that outside of our time of slavery time, that the women were raped all the time and abused and beaten and not cared for and always crying out to God to save them. And then what happened? What happened to the divine love that we once had for ourselves, that we were created of, that amen, the peace that's undisturbed, and we don't have that anymore within ourselves. There was a time where our Nubian sisters, you know, we were queens, we were goddesses, or what we call Niterta in my spiritual practice. You know, we were on a certain level of consciousness. We weren't working off of our lower nature, of our animalistic natures, our emotions, and so on. And that's what most of us are working out of, is our emotions. Instead of allowing ourselves to go into higher parts of our being, not only just being connected to nature, because nature, as we say, Mother Nature, which is Mother Niter in my spiritual practice, which means Mother God, which is the feminine aspect, that you must understand, first of all, you were not created to be anyone's punching bag. You were not created to be somebody who a man could just yell at you and put you down and say things negative in front of your children, in front of your friends, dragging you by your head, knocking you upside your head, smacking you around, punching you in your face, punching in your stomach, throwing things at you. These are things that women are going through every day. There are women that are out here that my sister was telling me about. A brother was so just disrespecting himself and the sister that he was with. And it was putting her down and abusing her right in front of people. How we've gotten so deep into our pain that we don't even see that reality no more. We don't see what we're doing to ourselves. Brothers, when you are talking to this woman like this, you must understand this is what you're doing to you. This is what you're doing to yourself. This is what you're doing to your people. This is what you're teaching the people that are outside watching it happen. This is what you're doing to the people, the neighbors who are listening to what's happening next door. When I was sitting here watching, and I was in so much tears, because I, just like Hadassah was talking about before, we can relate to the movie For Colored Girls. Mm-hmm. And in the movie For Colored Girls, you know, they're showing all the different types of abuse that we do to ourselves, because one of the sisters was abusive to herself. That was the one who was sleeping with all the different the different men. Then you have the other one who was abused by her husband, who was a military person, and he came back screwed up. That should tell you something. And then you had
the other woman who had a man who just gave her no act right. Mm-hmm. He just didn't do right, and he disappeared on her all the time.
Yes,
you know. And you know what was profound in that movie, and what helped me to really, really take a look at myself, when the scene with where she told Kimberly Elise, after he threw her children out of the window, that she was laying there like a victim, and she told her, in order for you to get better, you're going to have to accept some responsibility here.
Right.
You know, these things don't just happen to us. We teach people how to treat us. And again, it's subtle. A bitch, a shut up, a lie.
Sunpoints are a tally system WNWP-TV uses to reward its viewers for choosing Black-owned and operated media. Sunpoints can be used to purchase items from the network store without the need for your credit card or PayPal account. To learn more about the Sunpoint system, please click the link to the left of your screen entitled, What are Sunpoints?
The young man that was roughing up the young lady in front of my house, he was pulling on her. He was holding her against her will. He was cussing her out in the street, and she was sitting there crying. And I opened my window and I said, "Sister, are you okay?" He immediately began to attack me. And I said, "Wait a minute, brother, hold up. Had you given me another second, I was then going to ask you, are you okay?" And then she turned around and looked at me with, "Mind your business." And he took her across the street, and he finished roughing her up across the street and dragged her down the street. What's wrong with that picture? Don't you know that we don't respect anything or anybody that we can take advantage of? You'll never be respected by anyone who you allow to abuse you or disrespect you.
Right.
So you have to make it up in your mind that you love yourself, know your worth, know your value, and get out. Even if it comes at the expense of you abandoning all the material comforts that you've accumulated through the relationship, get out. Because we as parents, we're so gung-ho about our children listening to us when we need to be more concerned that they're watching us.
Right.
These kids are watching us. They're mimicking us. I'll never forget the time I went to a friend's house and watched her grandkids play house. The little grandson and the little girl, the little kids, and all they did was holler and scream at each other. So this was the baby's interpretation of playing house. Mm-hmm. This is what happens when you play house. You yell. The little girl was telling the little boy, give me money, give me money. I was amazed. Unbelievable. This is learned behavior. Everything we do is learned behavior. We live in a culture of disrespect. Listen to the music. How did we go from back in the day to, you're my darling, darling baby. I love you. You're my queen, to bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks. We don't love them hoes. How did we get there? We got there because we allowed them to take us there.
Right.
Because we've reduced our standards, our boundaries, just for the sake of having a man. Because, you know, half a man is better than no man at all. Well, excuse me, sisters, I'd rather be alone than accompanied poorly. And I'm not going to tolerate it. Indeed. When a man comes into my presence, he has to do right. Why? Because I do right by me.
Right.
And it's no more. Every relationship I've been in was abusive. Every relationship.
And a majority of mine as well.
And I'm watching my daughter disrespect a wonderful man. Because why? She saw me disrespect my man, run all over him, and act like he was nothing.
Mm-hmm. And see, and my thing was that I didn't. She on this part, she and I are opposite, because a lot of things that me and her share is very common, which is why she and I can relate well with each other. Mine was that I was that woman who. I was the strong black woman pushing the man to become who he needs to be, and always saying, it's okay, sweetheart, I got your back. I'm always there. I'm always there. I'm always there. Okay, well, let me help you understand something on that too. You can be there, but don't let the man walk over you. And because see, what happens is, as long as you're always okay in everything that he's saying, always saying, I'm sorry, always apologizing for stuff that you didn't do, and giving him the right to say what he wants to say, and you still pushing and pushing and pushing, and then he's going out messing around with other people. That was the type of person that I was, because it made me feel bad about myself, but I was like, I'm going to push my man, and I think that, you know, by doing this is going to keep him, by keeping the sex going, this is going to keep him. And what happened is, when you think that sex is going to keep a man, I'm sorry, let me tell you, it's not. I don't care how great you are in bed. I don't care how much you feel like you can ride him until the cows come home.
Or how flexible you are.
How flexible you are, right. to the roof. That won't matter. Yes. Let me be the one to tell you. Because there's so much in my life that people do not know. And when I write my book, Raising the Feminine Principle, you'll learn more things about my past. But that was something that I thought I needed to have in order to get the man to stay with me, to love me, to want me, to desire me. And what I do, no matter how much I was doing sexually towards this man or with this man, he still stepped out and went somewhere else. And because I thought I loved him, and I was like, without me loving myself, I found a reason to justify him going outside of me and his relationship and doing that. Then when I came across the good man, then we both had our own issues that we needed to deal with. But I was so caught up in the same habitual thing that I was doing with the previous man and the previous man and the previous man before that. And no, I didn't whore around when I'm saying that. I had long relationships, but they were just, the way that I'm putting it sounds like that. But I came across the good one. And because I was so accustomed to how I was living my life with the other person, that I didn't pay attention to the good man that was in front of my face. But then at the same time, he didn't understand the good woman that he had in front of him either, because he was living off of his situation and his hurts and his woes and the females that he was dealing with. And so what happened was, in turn, we realized how great we were with each other, but we were still falling back to our old ways. And so we started fighting and hating each other in a sense when we really had no reason to, because all we needed to do was let go of what we were accustomed to. And then, but we didn't know how to let go of the pain. We didn't know how to let go of the issues that we were dealing with that's embedded deep into our being, from how we were treated from the outside people, how he was treated by other women, and how they disrespected him and put him down and did push him. But then I was the one that was pushing him. But because I had similar habits and traits of the females before, then he automatically thought I was just like that female. Yes. So we're arguing, fighting. And we have to understand something. Yes, we are working out of a lot of pain. But the first thing that we're working on, and this is what I teach my sisters, because I work with people in their marriages and see people by themselves. I work with the youth, the teenage female youth, and I'm helping them to understand this because I overcame that. My husband was abusive for practically the 7 years that we were married. And yet people are wondering, how can I still smile? I still love him divinely. He's still a part of me because he was made by the Creator. He is not perfect, but he and our friends, and we are parents to our children. And I can sit there in a room with him and crack up like nothing ever happened, even though I know that this man had beat me, raped me, hurt me, bring me down, and all this other stuff. And other men that have done these things, or even females who have done certain things to me. I have my relationship to my own mother, but it's the fact that when you get deep into the spirit and you start to understand the things that are happening and why it happens in the manner that it does, and then you start understanding how you were built and created and why the design of when you were speaking and doing everything out of your lower nature, then you start to have a peace undisturbed within your being, and you stop being angry about those things, and you stop taking it personally. Then you can build and grow from that, and then that feeling of hatred and that somebody owes you something, and that when the next person that yells at you, you're not yelling at me, you're yelling at you. There's something about you that you feel negative about yourself. It's not me, so I'm not going to take on your energy. I'm not going to take on your self-hatred to you and bring it on myself, so I can bring myself down, so I can allow other people to have hatred towards me and act out on that hatred towards me. We have to be better than that. We have to be stronger than that. We as Black women, we have endured so much. We endured so much of the society. We've endured raping. We have endured beating. We have endured emotional put-downs. We have endured mental slavery that we have gone through for the oppressors that are still here, we are part of in their system. Believing that we need them and not our own brothers to help us, to protect us, to take care of us, to guide us, to strengthen us as we do them. We have taken this so much. Sisters, stop letting people, men, women, whatever, to bring you down, to stop doing the things you do. Like this photo that's behind us, I have it in one of my Facebook photos. And it's what is this called again? I don't remember.
It's called Made for Each Other, Shaping Your Mate.
And here, we have rings that are here in this spot and this spot. And it shows that they are not in marriage because marriage is a piece of paper. They are in matrimony because they're shaping each other. They're sharpening each other. That means they're helping to mold each other so they can become one. And though they're separate beings, that is their oneness that is right there. And a lot of people don't do that anymore. And it's not that, and don't misunderstand what I'm saying. It's not her trying to make him to what she wants him to be and all this other stuff. It's more so that this is my sister, this is my brother, and we're going to help each other out. So I'm going to mold you as one, and you're going to mold me as one, and we're going to work with each other. We're going to find that balance with each other. And then there's love there. There's a passion of that brother that she has to make sure to chisel him a certain way. And the same thing for the man to the woman, because he has respect for her body. And so he's chiseling her out a certain way based off the design that was already there, that's a part of, that makes her who she is. We have to start we have to work through that pain, and we have to learn how to work through that pain. And working through that pain is not ignoring it. Working through the pain is digging deep within your being, finding the root of what happened. Why did you start thinking the way that you are? And stop masking those issues that you have by the abuse that you accept, the abuse to your body that we do by drinking, smoking, alcohol, sex, religions, and all these other things that we do to mask the issues that's within our being, instead of facing those issues so that it will no longer be a problem. this is how I smile every day. This is how I go through things. And I don't want people to think that I'm perfect and I don't have my emotional moments. I do. I have an emotional moments because I still am in this human body. And I still have sensations and feelings that I feel. But I don't let that dictate my life.
Exactly. And you really, really, really need to get deep into the difference between sex and love.
We can talk
love,
about that in another one.
Sex and love are two very different things. And let's be clear, sisters. Just because a man uses your body and sexes you and lays down in the bed with you every night, it doesn't mean that he cares about you. You could be a convenience. You know, because we have a lot of sisters now who have no expectation of a man other than him being there.
Right.
You know, so he'll sex you up. He'll tell you everything you want to hear just so he can be taken care of. Just so he can be enabled.
Right.
You know, they leave their mother's house and then they come to our house and look for us to play their mother.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? I was in a relationship with one man. I'm the first to admit he had a very bad childhood. But he used his things that happened to him in his life as an excuse to be the way that he was. And he was not interested in changing, but he was looking for a sister to accept him in his condition.
Right.
That was too much for me to ask of me. Because for me to accept him in his condition, I had to compromise and give up a lot.
I wish we had more time to go into that, and maybe we could talk about that in our next show. And I think that would be a very serious subject that we need to speak upon that has to do with sex, the thought of love, and all this other stuff, because that was actually a status on Facebook and everything about what's the difference between sex and making love. And we can talk about that in the next show. But we do have to go, and I'm sorry, the time is running out. Again, this is my sister Hadassah Azrael.
And this is my sister Tech.
And I like to give thanks and honor to our teachers that are out here that is helping us along the way, that is showing us and guiding us to help us to understand, to get back to our true selves, which is the indwelling God within our being. It's not this person that you have believed yourself to be all these years. But I'd like to give respect and honor to our elders because they teach us the negative and the positive so that we can learn and grow from that, and they don't even know that they're being teachers. I like to give honor to our ancestors, whether recent ancestors or ancient ancestors, they all left us something behind to learn from so we can help to get back to where we need to be. Thank you, WNWP TV, for allowing the Raising a Feminine Principle to be on your show and on your network again. I am your host, Satra Nutert Kefa Abe Manut Ma'at. Thank you again, and we'll be looking forward to speaking to you again soon. Hotep.